Hey everyone, Mortgage Nerd here. So we've all been hearing about inflation, but what really is inflation? Do we truly understand what this is, where it comes from? But we don't only need to understand what inflation is, we need to understand what money is. We need to understand what gold is. We need to understand why and how the central bank was introduced. Who really gets stimulus money? I'm going to answer all of these questions in a series of videos that we have now. It's really mind-blowing because I've been digging deep into the theory of all these things. What is money? What is inflation? Just to really understand monetary policy and how we've gotten to where we are. I do have a degree in economics. A lot of this education comes from podcasts and videos and things that I've been digging into, books as well. Understanding the history of generations and how things change every generation. Our generation, and really all the generations alive right now, grew up thinking that this is the way it goes. Thinking that the monetary policy we have now is it. It's how it exists. It's okay for the government to just print money. Is it? That's new. It's not new in my lifetime, but it started in the 70s. Before that, we weren't printing money. No, there was the gold standard. Once we decoupled from the gold standard, it was a free-for-all. Governments were able to come in, and anytime there was a problem, they could just print money, lower interest rates to stimulate the economy, as opposed to letting the economy fail. Nobody wanted a Great Depression again. But when you have something like that, something where you allow the economy to fail and then rise up again, it booms. By artificially doing things, there are other unintended negative consequences. What is inflation? Inflation is not a naturally occurring phenomenon. We're made to think it is because of what I just said, because all our lives we grew up with this thing. But a lot of it stems from policies that came out of the World War II era. Think back to World War II. The superpower that rose out of World War II, I mean, we dropped a nuclear bomb in Japan, 2 of them in Japan, and annihilated Germany along with the help of the Soviets. Out of that came a superpower, a country that was so rich and powerful. We were holding all the gold reserves from throughout the world, giving it a safe haven, so to speak. The Federal Reserve was born out of that, which, by the way, is neither federal nor is it a reserve. Yeah, it's crazy. The more and more you go down the rabbit hole, the more you see that these policies that we live in are really crazy. And back then, people used to doubt the government. People used to say, don't trust the government. Just look at history. And now we're being told it's okay, trust the government. We're here to help. The government is based on people that have certain agenda. I'm not saying it's a negative agenda. I'm not saying it's malicious, but their agenda is to stay in power, is to continue to be voted in. And the only way to do that is to make things look good now. It doesn't matter what happens 10, 20 years from now. What happens is now, because they need their 4-year terms or whatever their term is. So their decisions are based on that, are based on what's going to get those votes coming back the next time. All right, so anyway, I kind of digressed. What inflation is you're artificially increasing the money supply. So if there's $2 trillion in circulation and you add another $2 trillion to that circulation, now you have double the amount of money out there available for people to buy things. There's still the same amount of TVs, there's still the same amount of cars and same amount of boats, same amount of clothing, but now you have double the money with which to buy these things. So if there's more people coming to you for one thing that you have, if you have the best shoes out there and everyone wants those shoes, you can raise your prices because you can only make so many shoes. That's inflation. Inflation is not natural. If our money supply remains flat, it remains even and doesn't change, there will not be inflation. It's not a naturally occurring phenomenon. The money printing started in the 70s, continued throughout the decades, and it doesn't matter which party did it because both parties have done it. You go back to 2001, George Bush did it when the World Trade Center happened, and there was a crisis there, and then a crisis in 2008, Obama did it, and now we had it again. Trump did it, and now Biden did it, and others Build Back Better, where they want to print more money and create more debt. Why? Because it looks good to them. If Trump wouldn't have printed all that money, he would have looked worse. Like, oh my God, it's terrible that you're not trying to help all these people in a pandemic. It's like a drug. You know, when you take a drug, oh man, it feels so good. But what happens is all the repercussions later are much worse. The addiction, the focusing your life on just that, all for that one fix. It's the same thing. We get this one fix, we get this one stimulus check, and we're gonna get into where that money really goes, but then that stimulus money turns into everything going up and being more expensive by 6%. Funny if you really think it's 6%, 10%, 15%, 20%, 30% increases in stuff that you have, and you only got $1,000. If you made $30,000 a year, but expenses went up 10, 15, 20%, you're losing. You're being stolen from. So I'm gonna make this series of videos. I'm gonna talk about different aspects of inflation. Talk about what is money and all of that. So stay tuned. I hope you like what you hear so far. Mortgage Nerd out.